Let's talk about Joe Burrow's last a few months that has now led to my question that I'm about to ask about the toe injury. He comes back and he's sat out so he could play 2 games in 5 days, or one of the games in 5 days. He doesn't play the Sunday, so he could play on the Thursday. He beats the Baltimore Ravens. Then he goes to the Western New York snow, and he's up by 10 before the roof caves in with a couple of interceptions. And then he gets to the podium and starts saying things like, if I want to keep doing this, I need to have fun. Then he gets shut out, but he says this has nothing to do with the Bengals. Then he comes back this past Wednesday, and he says he definitely sees himself being the Bengals quarterback next year. But when asked about what about other places, he goes, you think about a lot of things. What in the world is going on with Joe Burrow, Tom?
I would start with this, Rich. Rehab is not fun.
Right.
And Joe Burrow has spent an inordinate amount of time over the last 6 years since he got into the NFL rehabbing. He had the ACL reconstruction, which is like an 8 or 9 month process. That started in the tail end of his rookie season. He's had a calf injury. He has had a really significant type of a wrist injury. He had an appendectomy. He played every game last season, and really he hadn't missed a ton of game action. A lot of these things happened at the tail end of seasons where he was rehabbing in the offseason, but that also cuts into the normal break that you're going to have. This year, when I sat down with Joe like the second week at training camp, and he was talking about this is the best he's felt and how great it was to have a healthy training camp, week 2, he suffers a really significant turf toe injury, it's a 12 to 14 week injury, Rich. It's a long-term injury. When it first happened, the sense I got was he probably wasn't coming back until the very end at best of the regular season. He beats the timeline. He misses 9 games. He's back in like 10 weeks. And then he has a grand total of about 10 days from the moment he steps on the field to the Bengals being eliminated, in part because he played great in that Buffalo game, but for 2 interceptions on consecutive snaps. One where the ball kind of slips out of his hand. Another one where it gets picked off right at the line of scrimmage. That was the swing in the game. And for a guy who prides himself so much on being one of the absolute best in the world at what he does, there hasn't been a lot of time to enjoy much less success, but even playing the game.
Yeah, no,
that is the sense.
That I get that. I understand that. But, Bengals fans who are still going through PTSD from another guy who was drafted first overall wearing number 9, they just want to hear from him. I'm your guy. I'm not going anywhere. Not like think about a lot of things.
He already said it. 2026 doesn't envision any scenario where he's not the Bengals quarterback, which makes sense. He's due about $161 million over the next 4 years, which in quarterback terms, $40 million per for Joe Burrow, assuming, which is a big assumption at this point, that he's healthy. That's one of the best bargains in the NFL. Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, has never been somebody who wants to trade players. He doesn't want anyone else playing with his toys. Joe Burrow's under contract for the next 4 years. Every expectation that even if they got calls, which they certainly might, even if Joe Burrow were to say, I want to be traded, which it doesn't sound like he's going to, but even if that happened, I wouldn't anticipate that anything changes on that front from ownership in terms of people who are saying, well, then change out the head coach. Again, that's not how the Bengals historically have operated. It would be a surprise if they were to move on from Zach Taylor, a guy who took them to a Super Bowl and took them to another AFC Championship game. The past 3 years have been rough. 3 straight non-playoff seasons. Burrow has dealt with injuries, even though, again, he didn't miss time in terms of game action last year, but he's dealt with a lot this season. He was basically not out there. That's a driving force, not to mention defensively. You go through the entire offseason where you're at war contractually with your top pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson, and your first-round pick, Shamar Stewart. Neither guy has played very much through the course of this season. You saw flashes those first couple weeks from Stewart. Then Shamar Stewart, then he suffers an injury, misses a large chunk of time. Trey Hendrickson gets banged up, misses basically the entire second half of the season. They've had a lot of complications here. But you go back to the start of the offseason. What did Joe Burrow want him to do? Re-sign Jamar Chase, re-sign T. Higgins, re-sign Trey Hendrickson. They did all of it. The Bengals have basically given Burrow what he wanted. They changed their contract structure for him. And that's not to say that there's not reasons for Joe Burrow to be frustrated. My sense is the frustration, as much as anything, is at his situation, the fact he hasn't got an opportunity to enjoy playing football. Let's see where it goes in 2026. Maybe we're in a different place at the end of this season. There could well be rumors in the offseason. Again, I would not be surprised. Why wouldn't people call the Bengals about him? It is really, really hard, as Joe Burrow said, to envision a scenario where he's not the Bengals quarterback in 2026.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.